the Quaker, the Dutch, and the ladies, weaving the tapestry of early American identity. Introduction. The Tripartite Foundation. The story of America's founding is often told through the lens of Puritan New England or the Jamestown settlers. But a fuller understanding requires examining lesser celebrated groups whose contributions shaped the nation's pluralistic identity. Among these, the Religious Society of Friends Quakers, the Dutch colonists of New Netherland, and the women who navigated the constraints of 17th and 18th century society each played pivotal roles. Their interactions and ideologies rooted in religious tolerance, commercial ambition, and evolving gender norms collectively laid groundwork for America's democratic ethos and cultural diversity. This article explores their intertwined histories, revealing how Quaker principles, Dutch pragmatism, and women's resilience forged a uniquely American tapestry. Chapter 1: The Quakers: A Covenant of Conscience. Origins and Beliefs. Emerging in mid-17th century England, the Quakers or Friends rejected hierarchical church structures and sacraments, emphasizing direct communion with God through inner light. Persecuted for their refusal to swear oaths, bear arms, or tithe to the Church of England, they sought refuge in North America. William Penn, a Quaker convert, secured a charter from King Charles II in 1681 to establish Pennsylvania as a holy experiment, a colony founded on religious tolerance and participatory governance. Pennsylvania, a beacon of pluralism. Penn's vision attracted not only Quakers but also German Pietists, Swedish Lutherans, and Jewish refugees. The frame of government 1682 established a representative assembly and guaranteed liberties like freedom of worship and fair trials. Quaker principles of equality extended to indigenous relations. Penn negotiated land purchases from the Lenape people, though subsequent settlers often ignored these ideals. The colony's emphasis on pacifism and social justice contrasted sharply with the authoritarianism of Puritan New England, offering a model of governance that influenced later democratic thought. Women in the Quaker community. Quakerism uniquely empowered women. Believing spiritual authority transcended gender, they permitted women to preach, publish writings, and hold meetings. Figures like Mary Dyer, martyred in Massachusetts for her faith, and Margaret Fell, a co-founder of the movement, exemplified female leadership. In Pennsylvania, women's voices in family and community decisions challenged patriarchal norms, planting seeds for future feminist movements. Chapter 2: The Dutch: A Commerce, Culture, and Conflict. New Netherland, a global enterprise. The Dutch Republic's foray into North America began in 1609 with Henry Hudson's exploration of the Hudson River. By 1624, the Dutch West India Company established New Netherland, a trading colony centered on New Amsterdam, modern New York City. Unlike English settlements, New Netherland prioritized commerce over religious homogeneity, attracting a polyglot population of Walloons, Germans, Scandinavians, and enslaved Africans. The colony's economic engine for trading depended on alliances with indigenous nations like the Iroquois Confederacy. Though these relationships were often exploitative, Dutch contributions to American identity. The Dutch legacy includes legal and cultural innovations. The Dutch Republic's tradition of religious tolerance for its time allowed Jews, Quakers, and Lutherans to worship freely in New Amsterdam, a stark contrast to neighboring colonies. The 1645 Flushing Remonstrance, a petition against Director General Peter Stuyvesant's persecution of Quakers, prefigured the First Amendment's guarantee of religious freedom. Architecturally, Dutch influence persists in the gabled houses of the Hudson Valley, while their pragmatic approach to governance informed New York's development as a cosmopolitan hub. Women in New Netherland. Dutch colonial records reveal women's active roles in trade and household management. Widows like Margaret Harden broke leveraged inheritance laws to become successful merchants, navigating transatlantic markets. However, patriarchal norms persisted. Women's legal rights were tied to marital status, and enslaved women faced brutal exploitation. Despite these constraints, Dutch women's economic agency contrasted with the stricter gender roles of English colonies. Chapter 3: The Ladies: Negotiating Power in a Man's World. Colonial women's daily realities. Women's Lives in early America were shaped by race, class, and region. Enslaved women endured forced labor and sexual violence, while indigenous women balanced traditional roles with colonial disruptions. In European settlements, women managed households, raised children, and often worked alongside husbands in farms or shops. Legal systems, derived from English common law, denied women property rights and political voice, yet exceptions existed. In Dutch New Amsterdam, women could own businesses, and Quaker women preached publicly. Notable women and subtle influence. Anne Hutchinson's 1637 trial in Massachusetts, though ending in exile, highlighted women's intellectual agency. In New Netherland, Catalina Trico became a landowner after her husband's death, advocating for settlers' rights. Quaker women like Elizabeth Ashbridge traveled as missionaries, challenging social boundaries. These figures exemplified how women carved out spaces for influence within rigid societal structures, their actions subtly reshaping colonial life. The long shadow of gender norms. While women's formal rights remained limited, their informal networks, religious groups, kinship ties, and market participation sustained communities. Enslaved women, through oral traditions and resistance, preserved cultural identities. By the 18th century, these undercurrents coalesced into movements for abolition and suffrage, with figures like Sojourner Truth and Lucretia Mott Quaker drawing on earlier legacies of resilience. Chapter 4: Converging Paths, Quakers, Dutch, and Women in Dialogue. Quaker-Dutch interactions. The Dutch colony's religious tolerance attracted Quaker settlers, leading to tensions with Stuyvesant, who feared dissent. The Flushing Remonstrance 1657 saw Dutch and English residents unite to defend Quaker rights, a landmark in the evolution of religious liberty, after England seized New Netherland in 1664. Renaming it New York, Quaker merchants integrated into the region's trade networks, fostering transcolonial connections. Women as cultural bridges. Women navigated intercultural spaces, often mediating between European and indigenous societies. Quaker women's advocacy for peace sometimes aligned with Dutch traders' pragmatic alliances with native nations. In domestic spheres, Dutch and English women exchanged culinary and agricultural practices, blending traditions in a multicultural colonial landscape. Legacy of collaboration. The interplay of Quaker egalitarianism, Dutch pluralism, and women's adaptive strategies created a template for American identity, one that valued diversity, dissent, and incremental progress. These threads wove into the Revolution's ideals. As leaders like Thomas Paine influenced by Quaker thought and John Adams, who corresponded with his wife Abigail, drew on earlier debates about rights and representation. Conclusion: Foundations of a nation. The Quakers, Dutch, and women of early America were not monolithic groups but diverse actors whose ideals and struggles shaped the nation's trajectory. Quaker experiments in governance and tolerance. Dutch contributions to commerce and multiculturalism. And women as quiet yet persistent push against patriarchal norms collectively fostered a society uniquely open to reinvention. Their stories remind us that American identity was never fixed but emerged from dialogue, conflict, and collaboration among peoples often relegated to the margins of history. As modern debates over rights and representation continue, these early chapters offer enduring lessons in resilience and the power of inclusive vision.